Hi, cat. Come and get some mango, baby.
One, two, 1, 2, 3. Self-awareness is a superpower. My name is KathyLaDonna. Welcome to Soul and Vibration. I hope the free thinkers are doing well. And if you're not doing well, I'm happy to remind you that you are the most powerful person that you know. You are the most powerful person that you know because only you can create your reality. This video is about Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. Mercury goes retrograde on November 25th through December 15th in Sagittarius. And this video is part 1. Part 2 is available on Patreon, where I go into the sun, moon, and rising placements, pull some cards and see whatever channel message is coming through when it comes to this energy. So with Mercury and retrograde in Sag. So Mercury energy while retrograde in Sag, I think it's perfect for Mercury retrograde in Sag energy. Perfect because Sagittarius deals with higher learning and higher education. And I think of how Pluto just left Capricorn. And with Pluto leaving Capricorn, some of us have walked away from careers. Walked away from careers, goals, dreams, paths that we once thought was going to be something, a forever thing in our world. And we realize that we're not happy there. We want something more. We want something else. And major changes have happened in our career world where our goals and our ambitions and things are concerned. So while Mercury is retrograde in Sag, a lot of us are going to be reflecting on the thoughts of going back to school. And for some people, that might be exactly what they need to do in order to pursue what's in their heart, what's in alignment with their greatest good. And for others, going back to school might be it's almost like a default way of thinking, and it's like, this is just what you do, this is the best way for me to make more money. And I just feel like with the energies, I just feel like with the shift that we're in, like with the shift that we're in, let me spit it out because I find myself holding back. I personally feel like with this shift that we're in, those of us that are in tuned and like tapped in, we're being called to not just pursue a path just for the money, meaning you're miserable there. Like it's all about our frequency. And if you're in a place where you're miserable and it's lowering your frequency, it's almost like selling your soul for the coin. And I feel like the energy has shifted to the point that we have the ability to choose whatever path that's in alignment with our greatest good, and that path will provide everything that we need. But of course, you have to expect it. You have to know that this has to work out. Like I think for me, like having a job as a CNA when I was 16 and getting up and going to work on the days that I did and knowing for sure that I put 40 hours in, so I was going to get this amount of money. And I remember going into the beauty industry after graduating from cosmetology school. And even before going in the industry, I would do hair at home. But there was a time when I never took it seriously because the consistency of the money coming in. Like I had moments when I would make all this money and then other moments when it was slow. So because there wasn't this sure thing that I'm going to get 40 hours and this is, I'm going to get 40 hours for sure. I'm going to make this amount of money every day, every week for sure. because I didn't see that, I would always like end up in these different jobs instead of just doing hair from the start. Like I started doing other people's hair when I was like 12 years old or younger. If you let my grandmother tell it, she'll say I started doing hair since my eyes were at my knees. And I've just been, even before 12, like I remember cutting my brother's hair and cutting my uncle's hair and cutting the boys' hair in the family, braiding everybody's hair and things like that, because I would do my hair, people would notice it. And then I'll have clients. I'll be on the front porch doing hair. People pass by, they see me doing hair. I would get clients. And it was a small town, so word went around pretty fast. But, you know, it didn't felt safe because it wasn't consistent. And I remember, you know, becoming a CNA at 16 and then going in the building every day. And as a CNA, I enjoyed knowing that I was helping. I enjoyed knowing that I was making a difference. I enjoy knowing that, that I was making a difference. Like knowing that I was making someone comfortable. I was taking care of someone. I enjoy like getting my patients dressed up in the morning and putting them in front of their rooms and making sure their bed and everything is perfect and they're comfy. Like I felt good. My worth came from knowing that I was making them feel good. But I learned quickly that I did not like that environment, meaning like walking in at 7 or 3, or if I was doing the 11 to 7 shift, like walking in and the doors closing behind me and I'm just in that place. Like I knew that wasn't for me, because at first I thought, okay, you know, maybe I'll become a nurse later or something to that. But I just knew it wasn't for me. I didn't like the smell. I didn't like the way it felt. I just didn't like being there. So why not pursue cosmetology? So when I graduated high school, I went to cosmetology school at the community college. And when I went to cosmetology school, at that time, I knew that there was no other option. I knew that there was no plan B. There was only that plan. And when I graduated cosmetology school, I remember having my own place and everything. And ever since then, I've been independent. But I felt like I needed to have that shift in my mindset, knowing that this is the only way. So I feel like we're in this energy where those of us who are conscious, those of us who are aware, and I feel like the world though, but you know, for some people are able to shut themselves down and just like a robot, do whatever they need to do. But I feel like consequences come with those consequences, like health issues and things like that. But with this Sag energy and retrograde, people are reflecting going back to school. And for some of us, you know, make sure that you're not going back to school to do something that just to pay the bills, where if you already have a job that pays the bills and you're sick of it, then you're in an amazing position. Where if someone is listening and you need money desperately and you know you got bills to pay and responsibilities, hell yeah, go back to school and get some kind of trade or do something that's going to create more stability and security in your world, because only from that place you could manifest more. But the person who is in a career that they hate, that they're miserable, it's mundane, you're in a sweet spot, because now you're in a perfect spot. And the thing that's missing is you becoming a better manager with your money, with your resources, so that you could set yourself up to be able to buy your time back to invest into whatever it is that you want to do next. And for some people, they might say, I don't know what I want to do next. You do know what you want to do next. And the way you find out is pay attention to where you place most of your attention on, what you consume information on a regular basis, what you do naturally. If money wasn't an issue, what you would do for free. Some people might say, oh, I'll sleep all day. I bet you any amount of money, if you was a multi-millionaire and you've been rich for the past 10 years, after a while, getting up and sleeping every day is going to get old. When we have bills and responsibility and we never get any time to ourselves, that's the first thing that comes to mind. But once we have all that money, we could buy our time back. So we have a lot of time on our hands. And whatever we would do if money wasn't an issue is what we would be doing. And for those who are in the boring job, who are in the boring situation and they want something different, what would you do if money wasn't an issue? Because that will help you to see what direction you want to look into to create this new life for yourself. But the person who has bills to pay and whatnot, yeah, you got to make a sacrifice. I'll jump into, what thing will give me the most free. Like for me, when I became a CNA at 16, I only worked per diem, because for me, per diem gave me way more money. Gave me way more money. On the weekends, I would just bust doubles, whether it's 7 to 3, 3 to 7, 3 to 11, 11 to 7. I would just do 32 hours on the weekends, get my money, and I would get paid more for going in the afternoon on the weekend, the night shift, more money. And I would do that, and I would have freedom. I'd make my schedule whenever I want, and I have all this time to get into other things. And for some people, it's like, you might have to sit down and think about what could you get into that will allow you more free time for other things. Or before you even get to that point, how could you pay up and clear up some debt and become a better manager with your resources so you could create more time to get into other things? Because with Pluto leaving Capricorn, for some of us, we are leaving certain things that we just can't go back to. No matter how much you feel unsafe with whatever it is that you want to go into, there's something within you that just won't allow you to go back there, because your spirit wants to experience more, wants to keep your soul want to experience more, want to keep moving forward with the evolution. So going back isn't an option. So with this Mercury retrograde, for a lot of people, going back to school might seem like the best fit. And that might be perfect for some, but then for others, that might not be what's needed. So I feel like during this Mercury retrograde energy, and even if a person's not going back to school, with Sagittarius dealing with higher education, no matter what path we're going down, we're going to need to add value to ourselves by educating ourselves, even if it's self-education. So for some people, it might be, this retrograde energy might reflect, how could I add value to myself? What books do I need to read? What programs do I need to be a part of? And some people might full on sign up and go back to school for something else. But the thing that I was trying to stress with the back to school, I know there are people here that have multiple degrees in different things and keep finding themselves in the same position over and over again. And this is where a person got to sit down and ask themselves, what would I do if money, what would I do for free if money wasn't an issue, just to get up and pass time on a day-to-day basis. And I feel like that will benefit a person when it comes to figuring out what path to go in. This Mercury retrograde energy is a part of a T-square most of the time that Mercury is retrograding, from November 25th through December 15th. And with the T-square energy between Mercury retrograde, Neptune in Pisces, and at times Saturn in Pisces, and Jupiter in Gemini. With this retrograde energy, Saturn and Pisces energy is forcing us to be honest about what is it that, ways we escape reality to where we numb ourselves to convince ourselves that we could participate in things that we just truly can't. I think of the person has this morning routine where you probably have a bunch of coffee or different stimulants to end up to be able to go through the day. But then something happens and the doctor's like, you can't have all this coffee anymore, or you can't do this or that thing anymore. And it's now you take away these things. It's okay, how am I going to do this job if I can't drink coffee every day? How am I going to do this job if they're going to drug test me and I can't, hit the blunt every day before I go in there? So I feel with the T-square being made, it's we're gaining a lot of context and information and the truth about ways we escape reality pertaining to certain things. And to me, it kind of feels almost like the word raw is coming to mind. But when I say raw, I think of someone getting up and having to go and having to deal with something head on, where normally they would have some kind of buffer, some kind of protection. So throughout this retrograde, a lot of us will find ourselves challenged in that way where our pacifier is taken away from us. So we're feeling something head on. We're feeling the truth of how we feel in the thing. And by this retrograde is all said and done, a lot of us will have clarity on how we could add value to ourselves by educating ourselves more. For others, it might be something around traveling, wanting to travel more, wanting to get deeper when it comes to your spirituality and your spiritual practices. For some people, some things might be coming up around spirituality and religion. And there's this struggle when it comes to like, okay, but this struggle when it comes to, you know, I'm spiritual and I enjoy astrology and numerology, but I also like going to church on Sundays because I enjoy the messages there. That might be what someone is saying. And during the retrograde phase, they're reflecting because they might feel like they need to pick one, when who says you have to pick one, even though they'll say, oh, you can't serve two masters. But how do we know that, you know, it's not the same energy creator at the root of, you know, at the root of, say, a good church and at the root of a spiritual practice? But who knows, you know, but I feel like during this retrograde thing, that could be something that comes up. Also during this Mercury retrograde, big emphasis on schools and the educational system, and also travel. So maybe there's things around border and immigration and reflection on border control, immigration and different things like that could be a big factor in something that we hear through the news over and over, or more than normal, and things coming up around it and laws being restructured around it. But I like to focus on our psychology when it comes to my videos, because I feel like if I am whole and if I'm aware and if I work on myself in this world, it doesn't matter what the hell is happening around me, because if I'm solid on the inside, I'm equipped to deal with anything. So with this energy, I feel like for us, becoming solid on the inside would look like us reflecting on experiences that we have, what we don't want. Because with Pluto leaving Capricorn, you know what you don't want as far as in a job, in a career, in a work experience. So focusing, or not focusing, but sitting down and writing out what it is that you don't want to help you to get clarity to figure out what's next for you. And recognizing fears in yourself. Like in the past, if you asked me what was what would be the scariest thing ever, it would be to do this, to be talking and letting people hear me, like being heard. That was the most scary. That was like the most terrifying thing for me. Now, if you ask me what's scary, the only thing in my life right now that I would say is scary is to give up on life. The only thing that would be scary to me is like for life to end and I didn't get to do the things that I said I wanted. But I guess if I'm not here to know, then I guess it's not that scary. But for me, to not be able to live life according to my own terms is the only thing that I don't even want to say scary, but that's the only thing that comes to mind when I ask that question. I don't know how I asked that question, but yeah, when it comes to this energy, it comes back to, you know, what are things like how are you holding yourself back from stepping into your new path, whatever that path looks like, and what are ways that you can re-educate yourself to add value to yourself, to reinvent yourself for this path. Like based on the age group, I'm assuming, of the people who watch this channel and whatnot, like we're conditioned to think that going to school is the answer. So a lot of us are going to be battling with ourselves as to should I go back or not. And like I said, if you need to pay bills or whatnot, you know, do what you got to do. But if you're in a boring job, if you're like a professional doing something that you hate, like you're in a sweet spot, because you can from there create your ideal life. But you first need to know what it looks like. And I feel like throughout this Mercury retrograde energy, with expansive Jupiter playing a big part in this energy, because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, this is perfect energy to really sit back and reflect, like, what do I want to experience exactly? And at points of this retrograde, I like that, you know, Mercury retrograde will be aspecting Mars in Gemini. So, I mean, Mars in Leo. So Mars in Leo energy speaking to Mercury retrograde. I love that, because in Leo, Mars is going to be that, you know, paired up in Leo, it's that warrior courage energy. That's like, F that. You always said you wanted to do this or that. Like, it's about time you do it already. Like, I love that energy, the will and the motivation to make things happen. And then also to Neptune and Pisces, that will be positively aspecting this retrograde at times, so close to the North Node in Aries. It's like getting intuitive guidance, maybe getting dreams and just premonitions that help you to remember what you said you always wanted to do as a kid. Or maybe not as a kid, but just what you do natural, because there is something that you do on a day-to-day basis, no matter what job you're at, no matter what job you're in, or where you're at, there's this thing about you that you do effortlessly, and it can be monetized. You first have to recognize this thing. What is this thing that you do effortlessly when no one asks, that you would do for free? What is this thing? And when it comes to this thing, like, I think of like how we express this thing is like, what medium will you express this thing through? Like, I express that part of my personality through the medium of astrology, numerology, tarot, doing readings, coaching, and working with people one-on-one. That's how I express that part of my personality. So it's like, what is that thing about you, and how would you best express it? In what ways would you express it that fits? Where for me, expressing that part of my personality through astrology, numerology, tarot, and other things that I'm into is perfect, because I'm very analytical. I love diving into things. I'm always questioning things. So it's like different parts of my personality is coming together and creating this world for me. And I feel like I know that's possible for everyone. So for the person who's questioning, it's time for you to get still and get to know yourself and pay attention to what it is that you bring to everything that you do, and don't overlook it. Because I have a friend that is really good when it comes to connecting, like that stays connected with everyone. And I feel like that's a skill, but this person doesn't see that as a skill because she wasn't conditioned to see that as a skill. I see it as a skill because I could see how this person could keep networking events and make money from, you know, finder's fee from the different people that she knows, that she naturally keeps in touch with. And there's a way she could put that part of her personality with other parts of her personality that she overlooks, and it could be profitable, especially in today's day with social media. And, you know, if we weren't conditioned to see that as a thing, it's impossible to see that as a thing. But I just know when it comes to the energies, a lot of us feel frustrated. We feel sick of our situation, and we want something better. And it's time to dig into yourself, because like I said, based on the shift when it comes to the energies, it's not okay anymore for us to, like, it'll almost feel like, for me, I've come to a point where choosing to do something just for money would feel like I'm selling my soul. And it sounds silly because, hello, I got bills to pay. But there's a part of me that's saying, you could make money doing the things you enjoy. Just listen, just trust, just like close the door on the other things. And I love making these videos, and I would continue to make these videos even if it's just one person that comes along and watch. Because whenever I'm making these videos, whatever video, it's like I come to realizations within myself and my path. Because I've been learning how to trade now for a few years, and I find myself being profitable, and then I'll have these tilt moments where I just lose it because I want to become like a millionaire overnight, and I'll just do these irresponsible things, and then I'll lose my profit, make it again, and I'm in that wobbling stage. But recently I've had some profound moments, not through trading, but through other things, where it's like the guidance that's available to everyone has been amplified for me, showing me that, I'm on the right path. But I feel like what I've been missing was that mindset that I had when I went into the beauty industry, not looking to a plan B and knowing that what I'm doing is the only plan, not for no other reason other than the fact that I enjoy it. Like, I enjoy looking at the charts the way I enjoy looking at the astrological charts and the data and the repetition and the patterns. And it just so happens that I could get some money in the process, or I could lose some money in the process. But I love playing the game. And I realized from this message that I wasn't seeing it the way how I needed to see it. Like, when I got into the beauty industry straight out of cosmetology school, there was no plan B, where I'm trading, but I'm also entertaining the possibility of other ways I could make money. So it's like, I'm not locking in the way how I need to. So there are some people here who have these side hobbies or these things that you want to be your main hustle, the thing that you want to do more than anything else, but you're not locking in, like, you haven't fully committed and say, this is the only plan. This is the only plan. There's no other plan. This has to work out. Because when we lock in, like when I think of myself and lately becoming more serious and locking in, from the locking in, I see myself taking my trading as a real business, and I'm no longer playing with my money and risking it carelessly, even though today I did some foolishness. But I learned, and I see how much I've grown, even though I did some foolishness today, but I saw how much I've grown from the level of the foolishness, and it wasn't as foolish as other foolish things that I've done in the past. So like, I did some foolishness, and normally I'll feel bummed and feel some type of way, but I'm like, I'm so glad that I did some foolishness and it went against me. So I got the spanking that I need. I won't be doing it again, but I see progress in the level of my foolery. You know what I mean? So with this retrograde energy, I just, how are you going to add value to yourself? Like, like, imagine the ideal version of yourself, and who do you need to become to be that ideal version of yourself? Or what are you trying to achieve? And who do you need to become to achieve that thing that you're trying to achieve, whatever that thing is? And you're going to have to add value to yourself in order to do that. And this Mercury retrograde energy will show you how to add value to yourself in order to leap into the timeline of that ideal version of yourself. And like I keep stressing over and over again, with Pluto finally leaving Capricorn, a lot of us have closed the door on certain things, and it's only forward moving. So because we've closed the door on certain things and it's only forward moving, we have to add value to ourselves so that we could, propel forward. And with this energy here, throughout this retrograde phase, I would question, what do I want to experience? What do I want to experience? What is the ideal version of myself or my ideal life? And who do I need to become in order to do so? And how can I add value to my life in order to become that person? And this retrograde energy will definitely help us with that. And for some of us, I just want to add the importance of recognizing fear and how fear could be so clever. Because I think of, like, say for example, I'm going to use Cancer for example. A person might have Cancer in their chart, and Cancer is an energy that I think deals with hiding. Because Cancer is the 4th house in the natal chart. It's at the very bottom of the astrological wheel. When you think of a hermit crab, the hermit crab's body is so sensitive, it's so delicate, and it has to keep itself within the shell. And it uses the shell to protect itself from the harsh ray of the sun, and the sun is other people's opinion. And as humans, the need for us to be validated by others or others to agree with us, I feel like that is in our DNA from the past of probably being hung or murdered or going to prison, because people didn't agree with you, because your tribe didn't agree with you. And I feel like Cancer energy, more than anybody else, knows how it feels to feel unsafe, to always feel unsafe to a certain extent. So a person with strong Cancer within their energy might be called to a position that calls them to be seen. And fear within a person might not recognize that they fear being seen, but instead they'll come up with other excuses, or they'll completely block out of their mind the direction that their soul wants to go in order to evolve and have a certain experience. And instead they'll keep gravitating towards safer paths, and they'll gravitate towards safer paths because they want to feel safe, but then find themselves miserable there and confused why they keep ending up in situations where they're miserable, because there's a fear of being seen, but it's oblivious to them that that's actually a fear. So they're like looping over here, confused why this keeps happening. Or you have the Cancer person that might come up with excuses like, well, I don't want to put myself in this environment or that environment because I believe this energy or that or this or that or whatever stories people tell themselves. And they might not realize that that's just the story to protect you from putting yourself out there, because you're terrified at the thought of putting yourself out there. And that's the experience your soul wants to experience. You feel pulled to put yourself out there, but then you come up with these stories as to why it's unsafe, when really those stories are just to justify your fear. So I use that as an example for us to be aware of the power of fear and how it could show up in different ways. I think of like how jealousy could show up in ways that feel justified, and the person that's experiencing the jealousy won't even know it's jealousy. Where like I think of like, say, a person criticizing or talking ish about how someone chooses to present themselves in the world or live their life or whatever, and it's like, why is that your problem? Why does that bother you? Why do you care to talk about it? And they'll feel justified, not realizing that that's jealousy hiding itself as something else. And fear hides itself as something else. And for me, I had to, in order for me to be here in front of you right now, I had to recognize how fear was hiding itself within me, within certain excuses that was restricting me from going in a direction that I felt my soul being pulled towards, but then I would talk myself out of it with these justified reasons. Whenever Mercury is in retrograde, people always talk about, this is not the time to do this, not the time to do that. It's like, might as well you crawl up under a rock and wait until you hear signs to get up out of that. But that's never been my experience with Mercury retrograde. For me, with Mercury retrograde, I feel like Mercury retrograde is like a clearance opportunity. It's a clearance opportunity because most people are looking back. They are busy. It's like, imagine being in a community where everybody's eyes are rolled back in the back of their head, and they're pretty much like not present. So everybody is not present during this time, reflecting on whatever it is that they're reflecting on based on where this is happening in their psychology, in their chart. And because of that, people aren't paying attention. So yes, mistakes are being made when it comes to a lot of things because people aren't paying attention. But I find for me, during Mercury retrograde, I am very intentional about what I want. And from being intentional about what I want and holding that image in my head, the experience, the outcome, I'm intentional, I end up getting my way. Like I said, it's a clearance time. I don't use the opportunity to take advantage of anyone, but it's a perfect opportunity to get some good deals because people aren't paying attention. People aren't paying attention. Whenever Mercury is in retrograde, people will say that, oh, the planet is going backwards, but it's not going backwards. The way how I like to describe it is like watching a busy highway and all the cars are moving really fast along, and they're all moving fast along together. And there's this one car that's slowed down so much in relations to the others to the point that it looks like it's going backwards. And imagine that there's a screen that's following the cars. So there's a screen that we're looking at that's following the cars. So they're all moving along fast, but it looks like this one is going backwards because it's not moving the speed as the rest. So because of that, Mercury energy is amplified. So with the amplification of Mercury energy, there's this intense focus on all things Sagittarius. So with this intense focus on all things Sagittarius, this is where people are walking around with their eyes rolled back because they're reflecting on some aspect of their life to the point that they're not paying attention. So yes, as you maneuver through the world, you have to be intentional, but at the same time, like I was told in driving school, you can't just drive for yourself. You got to drive for everybody else on the road. And as you're maneuvering through this energy, you pretty much, have to be conscious and present of everybody else and the fact that some of them might not be present. But during Mercury retrograde, I don't think it's necessary for someone to stop their life and stop living, because life goes on. And times like these for me are seasons and portals. I think of like a person being an alchemist, and every energy is good for something. You just have to understand the energy itself and what you could get out of it. And every energy is good for something, because with Mercury retrograde and the revisiting aspect of it, say someone have it in, like, say for a Gemini person, even though I'm going to go into this in the Patreon video, for a Gemini person, it might bring back an old relationship, and the old relationship that it brings back might be a lasting one. And when the relationship came along in the past, you might not have been ready for the relationship. You might not have been ready for the friendship, for the connection. And now it has spun the block and you're able to revisit, reflect on it. And I wouldn't say during the retrograde time is the right time to jump into it, but during the retrograde time is a good time to, reflect on, why didn't you guys work out? What happened? And what could you do different moving forward? Because, I've had situations in my life where retrograde brought me back to certain mindsets and things, and I implement those things and they're a part of my world now. But the Mercury retrograde helped me to spin the block and take another look. So with this Mercury retrograde energy, for some of us, we'll spin the block and take another look at a career path, at a goal that we want for ourselves. Maybe we want to travel more, our education, our spirituality, how we inform ourselves and inform others. I think of Virgo, when Mercury was retrograding in Virgo, it brought me back to certain philosophies I had about food and different things like that. And it brought me back to reading a book that I had that I didn't fully read. And from reading the book, I empowered myself in ways, gained more knowledge about certain things that I'm interested in, and implementing those things till this day. So yeah, I feel like Mercury retrograde could bring people and things back into our world that could actually be beneficial. Things that we once crossed paths with in the past and we weren't mature enough for those things. We weren't ready. And from experiencing life and going through things, we're ready. We're ready now. We're ready now. So it's a perfect time for certain things to come back. But like I said, I wouldn't look at this as a good time to commit to anything that has came back. I think it's a good time to reflect, observe, and understand the thing or the dynamic of a thing that has come back. And it's after the retrograde energy, the reflecting energy, the researching energy, then you could move forward with things. But I don't think this is a good time to say start something that came back, if that makes sense. And even new things that come in during a retrograde energy, my only thing is that with these new things that come in, there might be lessons about them, and they might not be to necessarily jump into a new thing, but to understand a dynamic within yourself or within your life, or in some way why this thing has came back. Or if something new come into your world, a new person come into your world, I would use this time to just be friends and understand the person and not be so quick to just like jump into anything, because I feel like with the Mercury retrograde energy, something might come in, but we're looking back at something else and unconsciously engaging with what's in front of us. So it would remind me of, like, say someone being so under the influence and they hook up with someone and they're having a good time while they're under the influence, and the hookup lasts as long as, like, say it's just one night, but one night in one dimension is equivalent to this Mercury retrograde, which is almost like a month or so. And it's like once they're sober, they wake up the next day and it's like, who are you again? I feel like for some people, when Mercury retrograde is over, it's like, who are you again? So I think during the retrograde phase is a good time to keep things light and to get to know and observe your people, yourself in relations to things, but not be so quick to like lock into connections and things that come through. I feel like it's a great time for observation, I would say. But for those people who have important things that need to be done, and there's some dates that are set up during the Mercury retrograde, I feel like observe the flow of the energy. If things are happening where you're dealing with cancellations or things telling you no, don't go with that date, then don't go with that date. But if everything is flowing along, then go with the flow of things, because you might find that the retrograde energy actually worked out for you, and your guides or universe or just the timing of life opened the gate for you during the retrograde time, because maybe during the retrograde time things are done. Some people weren't paying attention and you got to go back. But maybe if you did it at another time, things were done, and like, I don't know, some way, somehow it benefits you if everything is supporting you to go. I do know, but I felt lazy and I didn't want to go deep into my mind to try to find an example for it. I feel like you get it. This video is part 1. Part 2 is available on Patreon. Hey guys, I want to share with you 7 benefits of getting a numerology natal chart awareness coaching session. The first one is understanding your internal programming. The second one is becoming more clear about your purpose and passion. The third is setting goals for success. The fourth is awareness of strength and areas of improvement. And the fourth one was foundational for me, because whenever you're aware of your weaknesses, no one can use them against you. And when you're aware of your strengths, that makes you unstoppable. And that is why I say self-awareness is a superpower. The fifth benefit is removing obstacles. We first have to become aware of a thing in order to remove it in the first place. The sixth benefit is understanding relationship dynamics. We don't have to change the people in our lives. We have to become aware of ourselves and start from there, and everything changes. And the seventh benefit is upcoming transits, if that's something that you would like to look into because you're planning for something or you just want to be aware. So if you're interested in booking a numerology natal chart awareness coaching session or learning more about it, the link to book or the link to send me an email for questions are both within the description box below. If you'd like to check out my Patreon, where I share exclusive content, the link to check out what's happening on Patreon is in the description box below. Before you go anywhere, please let me know you're here with me by dropping me a purple heart in the comment box below. I would love to hear from you and look forward to seeing you in the next video. Love yourself as if your life depended on it, because it does. Take care of yourself, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.